everyone, this is Austin from the Trek Bike Store in Cherville, and today I'm going to talk to you about getting ready for riding outdoor in the winter. So the first thing that we're going to start out with is base layers, and of course you want to start out with base layers, then thermal layers, and then you work your way up to barriers like jackets. But starting out with base layers, we'll be looking at something like this, where, for example, this one actually has a featured balaclava that actually is built into the jacket. The whole idea with this, though, is that you want something that's polyester, something that'll wick away sweat so that you don't lose heat through evaporation, something that'll keep you from getting all, wet. It wicks away the moisture. So you always want to start with something that, for the base layers, is going to be polyester or some kind of other synthetic material. Alright, so this is a perfect example of putting on one of the base layers that I mentioned before. Notice with this particular base layer that we actually have holes for the thumbs, which is nice because they slide in underneath the gloves. And then in addition, this is an example of actually using the integrated balaclava, so that keeps your face warm when you're out going for a cold ride. So, moving away from after the base layer, we're going to work our way out to the barriers or jackets. Of course, the thermal layers you can sometimes make up with having just a jersey or something like that over the actual base layer. Then after that you move on to the jacket, which the whole idea of this is that it's going to block you from, of course, cold, it's going to block you from wind, it's going to block you from, potentially if you get something that's water resistant and or waterproof, block you from moisture. That kind of thing will keep you really warm in the winter, but always keep it in layers that wicks away moisture, then something that holds in heat, and then something that really holds in heat and blocks wind. And perhaps most importantly, and because this is your outermost thermal layer, you can peel this off during a ride should you start out a little bit hot, but this is perhaps your most important piece of gear to have because it's important to keep your core warm while you're out riding in cold weather. So, then moving on to the legs, we're going to of course want to start up with probably something like a basic bib short or shorts. Anything that'll have a chamois in it, because a lot of the layers that go over for the legs will tend to not have chamois. But when you have something like this, make sure that you go for something that, for example with Pearl Izumi, you'll have like an intercool or something like that that actually wicks away moisture. Make sure that it's a super wicking material, and once again with the polyester. That will have a pretty universal thermal layer for the legs, which something like this, Pearl Izumi makes a really good, very thick. You want to focus on the thickness, because that layer doesn't have to worry about wicking away the moisture. It's about blocking from the wind once again, keeping in the heat, things like that. Alright, so notice I'm already wearing my bib shorts, but in addition, this is actually wearing the Pearl Izumi outer layer that's actually meant to be the thermal layer. It keeps your legs warm in the winter. And then the last part that you can't even begin to appreciate enough is actually what you do for your extremities. So, most importantly, we'll be looking at socks, which any war veteran or anything else will tell you, nothing like a good pair of socks, but make sure that you get something that has good wool fiber, something that'll focus on keeping away sweat once again, but mostly warm, very thick socks. You can generally just tell by finger testing it, so making sure that's a nice thick layer. And then of course you'll have your shoes, but a lot of shoes are ventilated so that the air is meant to get through, keeps your feet cool on a hot day, which is more the function of them, but when you're in the winter, you don't want that air getting through. So you'll get something that's called a shoe cover. Some people call them booties. I prefer shoe cover. But this will keep the wind out, this will keep the heat in, this will keep your feet warm. Alright, so how to properly apply the shoe covers. You'll notice with just about any shoe that you're going to use for road riding, mountain riding, that they're going to have a cleat on the bottom. And that cleat corresponds to a hole that's actually in the bottom of the shoe cover. So, the objective is to put that cleat through that hole and then slide it over the rest of your shoe, like so. And notice how it slides in there nicely, so that you have the cleat well spaced out from the shoe cover, so that you don't have it getting caught in the cleat when you're trying to clip in, but likewise you want it to be a tight fit so that it doesn't slide around on your shoe. Then after that, you simply Velcro it in the back, and you're ready to go. And then the last thing that you really need to focus on is sometimes, depending on how cold it gets, you'll have biting wind and stuff like that, but you definitely want a good thermal pair of gloves. Thermal pairs of gloves, you can also have a glove liner inside of them. Sometimes you can wear thinner gloves, like these aren't so thick, you can wear them as a thermal liner inside of a thicker pair of gloves that will more represent winter gloves, or you can even get riding mittens, which will tend to have a cutout for 2 of your fingers to do the shifting, and the rest will just be held in and warm. So that basically encompasses most of our thermal layers and how to keep you warm in the winter. Alright, so this has been Austin from the Trek Bike Store of Cherville saying get outside and keep the rubber side down.